Go ahead and start recording here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. Can you believe it is March of 2020 already? Cannot believe it. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. And my co-hosts are Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
And what are you excited about this week?
I really am excited because this is the truth. My daughters are taking over Notary to Pro. Lori's working with me now, and she's taken over all of the billing and accounting and a lot of different things. And Barbara's my everything else girl. And they're going to start. My sister's going to start helping me with social media, you know, the social stuff that I don't understand. And they just want me to be able to just mentor and watch TV and write articles and do the things I love to do. And that to me is like, it's like almost 11 years that it's been pretty much on my shoulders. And now that we're so busy, it's just wonderful. I love it. It's a family thing. So
I love it. It's awesome to have that level of support. Congratulations. Yeah. And our second co-host, Laura Biewer, founder of CoachMeLaura.com. How's it going, Laura?
It's going pretty darn good.
What are you excited about this week?
Life is beautiful. I'm excited because in a couple of weeks I'll be traveling. I'll be speaking at a conference in North Carolina, Clemens, North Carolina, to be exact. And that's March 22nd. So if anybody on the call is North Carolina and you're planning to go, or you didn't realize there's a conference coming up in your state, it's in Clemens on the 22nd, which is a Saturday, a one-day event. So you might want to check that out. You can Google North Carolina Conference 2020. The other thing I'm excited about is right close to home. My next meetup is coming up on March 10th. And so if there's anybody on the call who is in driving distance, Sacramento, Bay Area, south of me to Merced, people come from up to about an hour away. We're going to be meeting downtown Modesto on Tuesday at 6 o'clock on the 10th. And we're going to have a couple things going on. One is Matt is going to come talk to us about what he's doing with remote notarization bill and what are the new developments. And I'll be talking just a little bit about being an inspector of elections. I have done it. It was eye-opening. And so it's a very different type of work. And in California, a notary can certify an election for an HOA. There are a lot of steps involved, but I enjoyed it. So exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, that is very exciting. So I can't wait to hear how it goes. And thank you, Matt, for coming over there and sharing the California update as well. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump in and maybe open this up. Oh, I just want to reiterate and share one thing I'm excited about too. And I love, somebody just said here, who's just did their first wedding?
First wedding, Blanca.
Blanca just did her first wedding. I love it. Thank you for sharing it. Congratulations. That's pretty exciting for anybody else who's looking to branch into being a wedding officiant, or maybe you've already done that, but you still want to just raise your bar or improve on your game. I am having Mark Allen Grollo of the Unboring Wedding Officiant. He is going to be a guest on a webinar tomorrow talking about ways to really make yourself stand out in that business. And Mark's done an amazing job of doing that. So that event is tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you're interested, just register right there in the chat window. All right. So I know there's some of you, I've already been getting messages and texts that have a burning question to answer on today or ask on today's call. This is your time. Is there anybody that would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, or maybe type it into the chat window, whichever you prefer?
Hey, Bill, I have a quick question for you.
You bet, Mike.
I apologize if it's a stupid question, but when I'm doing an acknowledgement and there are two people who are listed, like John and Jane Doe. In my notary journal, would that count as two separate notarizations, or is that one because it's one document?
Great question. Laura, would you like to jump in and take this one?
It's per signer, per document is a notarization. So it would be 2 lines in your journal, but you can have both names in the certificate with 1 stamp.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Great question, Mike. Who else? All right.
I have a question.
Hey, Amina, how's it going?
Hey, great, thanks.
Good.
So I have been doing a lot of refinances recently, and it's been really interesting because every time I get to an affidavit or a document like that, which requires a jurat, I obviously have to put the signers under oath. And every time I do that, I get the signers saying to me, "We've never had to do this before. Why are you putting us under oath?" I just want to make sure that that's a correct thing to do, because a lot of people have been saying that other notaries don't do it. And I seem to be the only one who's doing it, if anyone can speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. Both Laura and Carol, I think.
Yeah, both of us, I think, have a lot to say. One, I want to say it is the right thing. It's your obligation, and it is what you certified in the certificate. You said subscribed and sworn, and they didn't swear anything until you administer the oath. So you are not completing your notarial duties if you don't do it. The second thing I want to add to that is I just had a second assignment with Berkshire Hathaway last week. And when I called to confirm, it was the real estate agent I was confirming with, she said, you're familiar. And I said, yes, I was there in January, I think your first deal of the year. And she said, you're the notary that swore in my clients. And she said, I've talked about that. I've told other notaries who haven't done it. Why aren't they doing that? I am so glad you're coming back to me. And, it does make us stand out when we do our job fully and completely. And that's the only way you can hold your client's feet to the fire about what they signed, is to put them under oath. Carol?
I don't think that there is one of the 8,000 Notary to Pro graduates that doesn't issue an oath, because if they don't and I find out about it, I will spank their little butts.
So true. And I think, but Amina, your question really highlights the normalcy of not doing the notary work correctly. So you're going to be constantly faced with pressure from even escrow officers and escrow assistants that have they've been doing it this way for 20 years. So you will run into these situations where you are the only one who asks for an oath, or you're the only one that on line items each journal entry in your journal. That's still it's a best practice. In some states, it's legally required or legally expected. So, yeah.
Even a lot of lawyers don't do it. I've heard so many people that tell me that. Lawyers, escrow officers, they just don't do it. I don't know why.
Great question. I'm sorry?
No.
Who's that? Oh, I see
Sinesta breathing out loud.
Oh, happens to me all the time. Sinesta, if you are, oh, there you go. We can hear you.
Hi.
Hi there.
Very exciting. My first question with you guys.
Awesome.
Okay, so 2 questions, because you guys were talking about the swearing in. I was wondering, in Florida, am I allowed to do the whole verbiage, do you swear or affirm, and then after they say yes or no, to let them know that I'm just going to remind them they're under oath when there's further jurats? Or do I need to re-administer the entire oath?
I know, Laura, I'm going to let you take this one because I know you have a pretty strong opinion on it.
Yeah, it's per jurat. It is not the appropriate procedure to put them under oath first and then just say, remember, you're under oath, you're under oath, you're under oath. Okay. Each certificate you fill out, start to finish, is a notarial act, and that includes the oath at that point in time. Now, at least somebody's putting them under oath. I'm happy about that. That's for sure. But technically it belongs with that particular document that they're swearing to.
Okay. Thank you.
And then
Now,
I'll,
my second question, unless you had something to add, Bill.
well, I'm going to jump in there and add just my perception on it too, because I do things a little bit differently and I teach even a little bit differently on this. So I just want you to know that there's other perspective and other ways of doing things. And there's still, when it comes down to some of this is just, there's going to be a best practice if your state doesn't specifically tell you what the expectation is. But I do one general oath for the entire signing, and then to remind them of their oaths and responsibilities under that oath, to me, would be an acceptable way of doing that. But
Okay.
I'm with Bill. That's the way I do it. I teach my students to issue the oath and affirmation at the beginning of the signing, and let them know that I will remind you every time that we come to a document that requires the oath, that you are still under oath. And that's what they've been doing. To me, I think that that's sufficient. It gets a little difficult when you're having to have people hear the oath and swear into, penalty of all perjury and all of that. If they've got 6 affidavits in the file, it gets pretty redundant. So
Right. Okay. I appreciate the variation from such professionals. Thank you.
you bet, no problem. What's your second question?
So my second question is, what are the best practices when working with witnesses? Should I be recording more than their first and last name in my journal?
Great question. What state are you in, Sinesta?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, that's right. You just said that. Thank you. Sorry. Carol, you look like you were just about to offer something there.
I don't know whether this is right, wrong, best practice. I don't know. But whenever I have a student who's required to have witnesses, I always tell them to put all of the information in your journal. I realize that the journal is just for notarial acts, but even if they have something that they keep, like I've come up with a thought of, in every journal, which we have used so many over the years, have an envelope that you stick on the back folder with tape or whatever, maybe a number 10 envelope, and then put things like witness affidavits, information about certain signings. Even if you don't write it in your book, if you have a witness and you want to put their contact information, not just their name and the date, because how are you going to find them if something comes up or happens? So what I suggest to them is that they put information somewhere in the journal, even if it's just on a piece of paper that connects with the date that they did the signing, with that witness's name, address, phone number, so that if you ever need to get in touch with them or anybody else does, it's there. So that's what I've suggested over the years. And I've had a couple of people come back to me and say, I'm so glad I did it, because something came up and they had to refer to those people and they had that information.
Great suggestion. Laura, how about you? How do you manage witnesses? Maybe if you're in a state that doesn't require that you include witnesses. Well, I guess the question that has to be, right, is, are you notarizing the witness signature or not? If you are, then obviously that is in your journal. But if it's not, if you're not actually notarizing the witness signature and it's not required in your state, how do you handle that?
So standard of care, which, by the way, you're going to start hearing that phrase more and more. That's a NNA phrase, and they're really replacing best practice with standard or professional care. And so if you hear me say that, that's where that's coming from. And that would be to document your witnesses' names in the additional information or notes column for future reference.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, great suggestions, great questions. Thank you, Sinesta. Thanks. Nailed it. Hey, Bob, I see your hand up. You got a question for us?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, so I had an AKA statement the other day, and I've never seen this before, but it had Michael Smith, and then the next name it had Smith, Michael. Do you actually have them make them sign Smith, Michael, or what do you do there?
So the question is the document had the borrower's names typed basically backwards. And the question is, should they sign backwards just as it's typed or sign just a normal signature for that name? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Laura, what do you think?
Well, I just want to make sure I heard correctly. Did you say it was first name, AKA, last name, first name? Did I hear it was an AKA line?
It was an AKA affidavit or statement.
It's the document.
Right. So it had the list of names.
All right. So where they sign their name correctly, they would sign it as they normally would, and it should have been first name, last name, and that's what you would have been notarizing. But they would have had a list of all the other ways it might have shown up in credit.
Correct.
Right, that listing. And I would have them sign it whatever the name variation is, unless they want to say there's no way that's me. Then I would have them write never known as, and then sign correctly.
Okay. So you would actually have them sign Smith, Michael.
I would. If that was the name variation, I have them do whatever the variations are. But remember, the only name I'm notarizing is the correctly signed name.
Correct. Okay. And that's what I did. I just wasn't sure if that was right or not. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and that's the perfect way to handle it. So the way I usually go is I'm not afraid to lay out the expectation from the lender, right? Because you're going to run into people and that are going to say, this is ridiculous. Why do I got to sign my last name first and then number? Or that's a name I haven't used since I was 20 years old. You know, you're going to hear that kind of stuff and they don't want to do it. So I just lay it out and I just tell them, well, the expectation, like if we want this thing to slide through with no red flags, no issues, the expectation that the lender has is that you sign like this. And if you feel really strongly against doing that, that's okay. We can either get them on the phone right now and figure something else out, or you can just sign how you want to sign and fingers crossed that this is done correctly. And then we just kind of go from there and see how it's done. Usually people do not like the idea of having a hiccup or a red flag or anything that can jam up this already frustrating process. But they're like, all right, I'll just do what they want me to do.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks. Great question. Hi, Lisa. You got a question for us?
Hi, Bill. Lisa, it's Lisa from Denver. So I have an experience I wanted to share with the group. Maybe you could kind of give me some insight as to why this person would ask this question or request. I've been doing some refis at borrowers' homes, and every once in a while a lender will show up, especially if it's a reverse mortgage. But this one was a simple refi. Lender shows up, we get through the documents, and at the very end he looks at me and he says, I'll take that note right there. And I looked at him and I said, well, you can follow me to the title officer's you could follow me to the title officer's office, and you can ask her for that. I was so shocked that he would ask me for a document like that right in front of the borrowers. And I had to tell him, that's not how we do this, because I knew that I would never have given it to him, first of all. But just the idea that somebody else who was new and thought, oh, well, maybe I should give it to him. And then they take the docs back to title, who they're, representing and working for, could get in a lot of trouble for that.
That's an odd one, Lisa, for sure. So, yeah, I think you handled it definitely the right way. Laura, you have any suggestions or?
I would have said, we need to make a phone call.
Yeah.
I need permission to let you walk out the door with this original document. If I'm given permission by the title company that hired me that said, give it to them, okay, I followed the instructions. It's not my document, but I would not let them walk out the door like that just because I'm the lender and I want the document.
So then he asked me, well, who's the EO? And I told him her name. He goes, oh yeah, no, never mind.
I love that.
So I just thought I'd share that experience with the group so that they didn't, because if you're newer and you're like, okay, well, he is in the industry, should he get this? Should he get this document? And then they release it, and then a whole bunch of stuff just happens after that. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Good instinct on you, Lisa.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, excellent. What other questions do we have? Anybody that's live on this?
This is Wanda. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Wanda.
Hi. To follow up on her question, I had a similar situation, but it was a realtor who came into the signing, and this was at a title office. She's asking me to give up the closing disclosure copy to her. Thinking back, I think I did make an extra copy and hand it to her, but now that she's asking this question, I was wondering if I had done the right thing or not.
Carol, what do you think?
That's a tough one. Did she want to keep it? Is she?
Yeah, she took,
you saying she just
she-
wanted to take it?
No, she said she wanted to get a copy of the closing disclosure if she could. And that's all she stated.
I
She
would
just
ask
wanted it
permission
for
from
her
the.
records.
I
sorry?
would say ask the borrower if their permission to make a copy and give it to their realtor.
Okay.
I don't see it's a major problem.
Okay.
It's not like taking the note. I mean, there's a big difference. She
Okay.
wanted to make sure that the figures are right. She's protected.
Mhm.
I keep running out of breath. I still have that darn thing for Thanksgiving. But yeah, I would probably do that. I think over the years I've probably handed over a lot of HUD settlement statements and things for the realtor to look over.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, great question. Anything I can do as a courtesy, but without violating privacy, I will do all day long. If it's going to smooth things over, it's going to make my client look really good. You know, sometimes these relationships with escrow officers and real estate agents and borrowers, or lenders, can be a little contentious. So if I can do anything to help kind of smooth that out, I'm happy to make extra copy of this or whatever. But like Carol said, especially when it comes to numbers and information, just make sure that the borrower is at least aware of it or nods permission, which they normally would because the real estate agent is representing their best interests, hopefully as well.
Absolutely.
Let's go. We got three other hands up here. Jenny.
Sorry, there you go.
Yeah,
Hi.
Hi, welcome. How can we help?
Hi, can we just go over really quickly the issue of hyphenated last names again? Best practice, or what did you say, Laura? Best standard of care for hyphenated last names? For example, title docs do not have a hyphenated last name. Let's say the ID doesn't have a hyphenated last name, but the lender docs have the hyphenated last name.
Okay, so the question is, there's a hyphenated last name shown on the lender documents, but the ID does not reflect a hyphenated last name. It's just one of the last.
Right.
All right, Laura, what do you say?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's hyphenated in one place and both last names are in the other place, unhyphenated, or just one of the last names?
Just one of the last names. So
okay, so a hyphenated last name, grammatically speaking, is considered one word. So you should have, they need to prove the two last names. And if they can't do it with ID, if you're in a state where credible witnesses can be used, that would be your alternative to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Patricia Bridges, I see your hand up. How can we help?
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you. First, let me say, Carol, thank you. The very day that we did the split signing, guess who wound up getting another one? And I was the second notary. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Real? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the first notary, she did her best, but because I had my confidence and I called the other title person, the escrow officer, we got it done from Florida to Illinois. But I would have probably passed out had we not had that meeting. So I do thank you for that. Bill, my question is, we had on the Facebook group about the proposed interest rate going down. Is that a good thing for us or not? And that's not just to Bill, that's to all of you all.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, so I mean, anytime borrowing money is inexpensive, that's really good for loan signing agents. That means that could possibly spark more growth, more home sales for sure, and possibly more refinances. I mean, these refinances, they were already pretty low. I mean, this is unheard of low. So it's a great time to be in the business. So
it's all over the news today.
Yeah.
And it was also in our group chat. So I was like, I need to find out if that's a good thing for us or not. It would be a good thing for me as a consumer, but I don't know how it affects the market for us.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to drive applications. So when the applications for mortgages goes up and spikes, that means in 30 to 45 days, there's going to be additional spikes in closing volume as well. But also, guys, I mean, systems are overloaded. It is, it's already crazy, the impact on title, escrow, and lenders right now. So it might clog things up a little bit. So the closings, might get jammed up. People might be waiting for their homes a little longer than they expected. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting time for sure. Carol, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's fabulous. If I were brave enough, I'd get up and do my little dance. I do want to say something because I thank Patricia so much. She called, as I get a lot of calls from students about split signings, and she and I did a video, and we posted it now on Facebook on a couple of groups, and I'm getting some really good feedback, Patricia. It's helping a lot of people. So thank you for doing
That's great. It helped me tremendously, and I reinforced it by slightly explaining it to the client what a split signing was and how it applied to him. Because he told me my parents, it only took them 10 minutes. I said, well, it won't take you 10 minutes because you have the blunt of the documents, and let me show you this, that, and the other. Did my certificates perfectly. I understood and how they meant, and the acknowledgments and the jurats, and that was always, tripping me up before. But I got it done, and I haven't heard from them, so obviously I did it right.
That's great. And Bill.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of comments of different Facebook groups, especially from the newbies on the, oh my God, what is it? The one I thought the name of. What is it? Jason's group.
Oh, Safe Haven?
Yeah, that your book is becoming very popular.
Oh,
it's
really?
got so much information.
Oh, good. Awesome.
So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's helping. Glad it is helping.
Thank you for letting me do the forward.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. Definitely. All right, great questions, guys. Let's keep them going. Samara has her hand up as well. Samara, what do you say?
Hey, everybody from Kentucky and Indiana. How are you doing today? My question is, in me trying to branch out and network and meet some other notaries so I don't have to tell a company no again. I'm meeting a lot of notaries who have been notaries, signing agents for years, but never had any training. I met a lady a couple days ago who said that she was not commissioned in Indiana because we're right on the border, but she has a guy that she just collects the signatures, and he actually notarizes them when she gives the packet back. And I cringed because I could hear Carol going, "What? You do what?" What is good verbiage to remain professional without throwing another notary under the bus, but actually educating the people in my area who have absolutely no education or best practices at this time? And that's my question. I'll mute back off. Thank you.
That's a really great question. I love that you're asking. So if I'm understanding correctly, Samara, you're basically asking, what's a polite way of nudging someone towards training and learning more about what they clearly don't know about. Is that kind of the summary of what your question is?
Yeah, just didn't want to come off as a notary know-it-all. Being I take these classes, so I think I'm a notary know-it-all. But and then also, what is the correct professional verbiage? Because I'm still learning how to be polished. to say without saying, hey, you're doing that wrong and you could lose your commission. And I know there's a better way to say all that.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're in the right place too. Carol, how would you coach someone through this?
I think that it's really important that you go at it in the perspective that you're trying to protect them. I hear all the time from certain lugheads, fake mistakes, but you learn from them. You don't need any training. If you let people know the consequences, personal consequences that they could face if they make a mistake, people wind up in prison for some of the things that they do. I think that you go to them with I learned the hard way, or I know of somebody that learned the hard way, that if you don't get training, you can make some severe mistakes that will cost you. So do your due diligence and, see what's right for you, but do get some training. It could save you. It could save you, time in jail. It could save you losing your home, all kinds of things. But that's what I would do. Just friend to friend, hey, got to take care of yourself.
What do you think the consequence would be for the signer who has one notary show up or one person show up who's not even commissioned as a notary? Does that invalidate that closing?
What do you mean one person show up?
Say you're the notary, signing agent of record, and you pass it off to me, but I can't stamp in your state, so I just go and I collect everybody's signatures and no notarizations are done. And then I bring the copies back to you, and then you put your stamp
and then
on,
which
I know is a dead wrong.
Well, for sure they'd lose their commission.
I just met a lady who says she's been doing that for a couple of years for another signing agent. And so I didn't invite her to come and work with me, but she probably has potential. She just doesn't have the training. She doesn't know, or she doesn't want to know.
I don't know. I couldn't even imagine somebody doing that, but I know it happens.
Yeah, it's a real tough one. I love the way that you're approaching this. And Samara, the reality is that this person's motivation is what you're going to have to speak to. Because if she's just ignorant of the situation, is not aware that she can't do that, and that what she's doing is literally against the law, it totally negates our role as a notary. Our job is to witness those signatures and document that. But if she's not aware, you can absolutely have that conversation and just let her know the risk, and maybe even approach it from the consumer risk standpoint, right? Part of a notarization, that ceremony of notarizing a document, is part of the consumer protection as well. They get to witness us seal that. We've had a ceremony there. You could try approaching that way. The other way that you need to be prepared for too is people who are fully aware of the fact that they're not playing in integrity and they're still doing it anyway, meaning that they feel like they don't have another option, like the money's too good or whatever that might be. So you have to kind of dance around that a little bit and be prepared for either disappointment or whatever it is. Whatever it happens to be, and be able to navigate that conversation too. And if you want to have a private conversation, Samara, yeah, you bet. We can have a coaching call or something before you have that conversation.
I think I'm going to just send her the link because she needs to take a class.
Or just invite her to this call too, the Tuesday Notary
Right.
Great little intro into what.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Be sure and introduce her to all of us.
Yeah.
And tell us.
Definitely.
Remind us.
All right. Great question. Thank you, Samara. Thank you for having the heart to even think about how to do that in a classy way. I love that. Julie, I see your hand up. You want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, I just had to figure out how to unmute. I'm on someone else's computer. Hello, everyone. How are y'all? I'm in Texas. Guess what? Thanks to all of my wonderful coaches here, I got asked to come out here and do a couple of documents. Maybe I shouldn't say what they are, but some documents that I learned from some of you professionals there. So someone's flying me out here to handle that, and I'm getting called to come back to California. So I'm excited to be here.
Wow.
A new dilemma has come up, and I don't know if you guys talked about this yet, is the coronavirus. Woohoo. So I tried to get as educated as I could, but just sharing some information that it's like a flu-like symptom. So it's spittle. So it's going to be coughing, sneezing, things like that. So those throwaway mask is really a good idea, and sanitize every time you leave a signing to keep everyone safe. It's kind of scary to think that you could get it because it's so new and they don't have a cure for it. But I live in Solano County, and I know that in California, there's already a case there with coronavirus. Actually, I think a couple of cases. So just wanted to kind of make everyone aware. You know, I'm trying to figure out whether to fly back or to drive back. So just everyone take precautions and keep working, keep training. Don't be too afraid, but definitely preload your house with foods and goods, and just go out if you have to. That's the best I can tell you, but I hear they're about to start shutting down some schools and things. Everyone just be careful.
Thank you, Julie.
The pandemic, let's just do our part and be careful for one another, you know? That's all.
I saw.
If anyone said anything. So.
All right, thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. What's up, Carol?
I saw a thing this morning. One of my students sent to me a little video about what it actually is and what it does. And I have the symptoms. It's kind of scary. It's hard to breathe. And you and Laura and Bill, you guys know that this has been going on for me since Thanksgiving. Thinking about going to the doctor. I don't know.
Better safe than sorry, probably at this point.
It apparently it gets real serious with some people, but with others, it's just a matter of like not being able to breathe right. It's a virus, so they can't give you anything.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they should start using masks, I guess.
All right. iPhone or iPhone, however you pronounce your name. You have a question. All right, we'll skip and go to Rosemary. Hey, Rosemary, can you unmute and ask your question?
Hi, thank
Hi.
you.
You bet.
I'm in New Jersey, and the last 2 weeks, for the first time, I came across a form 8821. It says it's like an IRS form asking for permission for the customer's social security number. Now it comes with, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
It comes with 4 pages worth of instructions that on the top says, do not sign if this form is blank or incomplete. And on the bottom, it says, do not sign if it's blank or incomplete. Both times, they came in my packages with nothing filled in. I called the title company, who sent me to the lender, who said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just have them sign it. Which makes me very uncomfortable because it says, do not sign if it's blank. And it's supposed, there's like 4 columns, an A, B, C, and D. That's, the lender is supposed to fill in what they are looking for. That's not covered on the CAF, the Central Authorization File. Have you heard of this form?
Yeah, I've come across it a couple of times.
The 8821.
8821, sure.
Do you suggest that they do not sign it if it's blank?
Well, my general guideline is if there's ever a document a borrower does not want to sign, they don't have to sign it. But again, I'll tell them exactly what we kind of talked about a few minutes ago, is here's what the lender's expecting. And if they can't provide the information from those missing lines, we can either get on the phone to the lender and figure it out, or they can refuse to sign it and I can make a little note on it that just says borrower is not comfortable signing this without it being filled in as per the instructions on the document, or most people just sign it and go anyway because they do not want the hassle of an obstruction later on. That's been my experience. Carol, what do you experience this?
And/or do you have a better way to explain to me how I can explain the purpose of that form? Because it says it's for a third party to have access to your records.
Yeah, that's the third party is the lender.
Right.
Oh, not another. Okay.
So it's just the lender trying to verify. Maybe that's a self-employed situation. Laura, do you have any other suggestions on that one?
You know, that document's not notarized, correct?
It is not.
Correct. It is not
No.
notarized.
Okay, if we can't come to find a way to take care of it, leave it behind with them to discuss how that's going to be filled out, and they can fax it or send it over. I don't have to stop the signing for it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help.
Yep, excellent. Great question, Rosemary. Thank you. Guy Case. Hey, Guy. Are you able to mute or unmute, I guess, at this point? Maybe not. We'll skip you for right now. Arlene Vincent. Arlene, are you able to unmute yourself?
I sure am.
Thank you. Hi, how can we help?
Hi, how are you? Well, I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and just listening to the conversation, I have never been so outdone of somebody doing notary signings without training or filling out documents like for the basic notary 101, a blank document, or have somebody else do it. I've never heard of anything like that before. In Pennsylvania, that is a recipe for jail time, fines, and everything else. So how do they get away with it? How do they even get their license without training is what I would like to know.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I think it's one of our big industry challenges, and every state is different. Some states are super easy, like in Arizona, you can be a notary the same day, no criminal background check, nothing. It's terrifying. And some states are even easier. Some are obviously a lot harder.
Well, Pennsylvania is definitely not one of those ones because I never hesitate, even if I had training for notary signing agent from the National Notary Association, I re-educate myself only on a daily basis about something new or someone else's experience. So the more that you can re-educate yourself, to me, the more that you're putting on the high-ranking list for title companies to call you.
I totally agree. I think you're in good company here, Arlene. This constant continuous improvement, or Kaizen, is why we're all here. So welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you very
This
much.
is the main reason I started this almost 11 years now. 11 years. I wanted to raise the bar. I wanted to change things because nobody knew what they were doing. It was a new industry for one thing. It had never been done before. And yeah, it's important. I mean, and people, it's not just a matter of protecting the public. It's a matter of pride and knowing that you're comfortable and knowing that you are helping people in the right way, that you know what you're doing and you can handle, most of the situations that you're faced with. Can I ask, I want to say something. There's a question from John. It says, is Notary still in business or did they ever get started? And Bill and I can both talk about it a little bit. And I asked you, Bill, when I wrote that article for NNA and they repeated my article in their magazine. Did you ever get a chance to talk to?
I'm meeting, so Notary is in business. They're a startup that's working to help in the reverse mortgage arena and really kind of make a white glove seamless experience for the lender, but especially for the notary and borrower relationship at the end. So they are in business. They are getting their funding. I have a meeting with Todd, the CEO, tomorrow, actually. So we're going to get a chance to talk to him, and he's connected me with another amazing business that could really help out notaries we just met yesterday. So there's some cool stuff happening behind the scenes. It is in business. It is progressing. So we'll definitely keep you in the loop on that one.
Because of the fact that he copied my article and put it on the front page of their magazine, I want to see him hire my graduates.
It's the ultimate compliment. Have your article shared.
Bill, this is Guy.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, there you are, Guy. Welcome.
Sorry, I couldn't get off the road fast enough to unmute.
No worries.
I'm calling to talk a little bit about a situation that I had today, and Carol was a great asset to me, and we got things worked out.
Awesome.
So thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
But I had a signing service that wanted me to scan docs back to them without using a secure link. And I refused to do that. My thinking being, if I do it, I'm the one that's on the hook, not them, if information got compromised. So we finally did get it worked out through a service that Carol recommended, which is ourrecords.com. And I was able to send them the documents in a manner that satisfied my concerns. And I'm thinking that as notaries, we often feel like we got to do what somebody else tells us to do, or we're going to be in a bad situation with them. In this particular situation, I felt like I'd have been in a worse way if I had complied with what they were demanding.
Yes, you would have been.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Guy. That's huge. And that you really highlight something that we're faced with all the time. Even if you're seasoned, you've been here for years, there's constant pressure to do things that we're not allowed to do or shouldn't do. And sometimes it's not because they want to entice us to do bad things. You know, they just don't. Nobody else knows our role better than us. And sometimes that's terrifying because nobody knows our role. So we have to know. That's part of being in integrity, is to know what you can do and what you can't do.
I can't tell you how many times over the years when I was doing signings, 14 years of it, that I wasn't threatened by loan officers for not backdating, that I wouldn't backdate. And I was threatened to be blackballed. They tried to pull things because back then you could, and I don't know if it's the same thing now, but the commissions, if you couldn't close by a certain day, then you didn't get your commission for a whole month. And so they would coerce you into backdating something so that it would fund within that month so they'd get paid right away. And that was rampant. I can't tell you how many times I had loan officers threaten me.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Sherry Tizono, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask a question? You just have to unmute yourself. Sherry Tizono. Sherry going once.
Hello.
There you are. How's it going, Sherry?
Too many buttons. I have a quick question, and it might be kind of generic, but do all affidavits have to have your notary seal on them? Because they ask for your signature and your commission, but they don't have the word seal there. I have been stamping them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds logical to me. Laura, what do you have to say on that?
She left.
She left.
Well, she's unavailable at the moment.
Sherry, to say every single affidavit would need to be stamped with a stamp is too blanket for me to be comfortable saying yes.
Okay.
Maybe an affidavit doesn't require a notarization. So let's not say that. But let's just say that in order for a notarization to actually be a notarization, it does require your signature and your stamp. So if you are signing in the capacity as a notary public in a notarial certificate, it does require your stamp as well.
Okay, these are name/identity affidavits.
So that's a notarized document.
Okay, okay.
So let's just boil it down even further, regardless of whatever the name of the document is. If you are performing a notarization, it does require your stamp and your signature.
Okay, all right.
I cannot think of a single exception for that.
Now, I've run into this situation too, that some lenders want you to stamp the Patriot Act. Have you heard of that? I actually had a document come back because I did not stamp the bottom of the Patriot Act.
Well, it depends on the Patriot Act. There are a few variations out there. The standard variation that most of us are used to seeing is not a notarized document, and it's therefore cannot be stamped. However, there are some variations of that form out there that are more like a notary. Oh, actually, Cass actually sent a sample of this. If you don't mind, I'm going to share this so we can take a look at it. So Cass had something that looks like this. So this is not the Patriot Act form, but it is a notary certification. So this is the notary saying that, yes, it was me and these people showed up.
Oh.
Here's the notarized signature of the person. Here's what they used as their ID. And they have the notary fill out all their information here. And then the notary signs it. And you can see right here, they're asking for the notary stamp and seal on that.
Right.
But we know that in most states, it would be against protocol or against the law for us to stamp this document that is not actually a notarized document. They just want a sample of that notary seal. So we've talked about this a few times. Carol, do you have a strategy for this whenever a document is asking for the stamp or seal, but we know we can't actually provide it? What do you advise notaries in this situation?
Well, they can either make a stamp, or they can have something that you print. You can cut little papers that you can attach. But I've always taught my students to put a little note on there somehow that says that it is illegal for me to apply my notary seal to a document that I am not notarizing. And it's always worked. It worked for me. But because it takes length of time to write it out, just having a little stamp or printing up, a whole page of them, like on labels for folders, things like that, you can just put that on there. But the important thing is, if it's not a document that you are notarizing that has people's signatures on it, then you cannot apply your seal to that. And also on the Patriot Act form, you're not signing as a notary. You have to put your title on there. Your title should be sign your name, and your title should be signing agent, not notary signing agent, just signing agent.
Okay, and I don't have to put my stamp on that, or I shouldn't put my stamp on it?
No, because
okay,
whose signature are you notarizing? You can't notarize your own signature. And
So
that's the only people that are signing that document.
So that's
So there are some documents like the certificate of proof of identity where you sign it on the bottom, but you just sign it, you don't stamp it.
Well, it depends. Yes. It depends, Sherry. Like it's, I think we have to be really careful with names of documents and then asking for a blanket policy, because some of these same title documents are different in all the different states. So the document has to determine what it is. So you can't count on every document to include the word seal when your stamp is supposed to be there. But you have the general statement you can take with you is that if you are expected to notarize the document, if you're signing because you're the notary and you've witnessed their signature and you've acknowledged it, or it's a jurat, and you sign it, it must be stamped in order for that ceremony to be complete. in order for that to be a fully executed notarial certificate, whether it says seal or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that was kind of my feeling on it, but I didn't know. Like I say, that one company was just insistent that I put my seal on it, and I guess now I shouldn't have, but.
Well, maybe and maybe not. So the other challenge is that some Patriot Act forms or the ID forms that look like Patriot Act forms actually do require the borrower to have filled it out and include that same information, and then they sign it, and then it is a notarized document. So it may have been something like that.
And it was. All the Patriot Act that I'm getting here in Montana, they do have to fill them out.
Oh, and then they
sign.
And they sign them. Okay, then absolutely. Yep. If it's notarized, your stamp has to be there. There's no way of getting around that. So if the expectation was that form, that Patriot Act form, was to be notarized, it has to include your stamp.
Okay. All right.
But just remember that it has to include your signature and your seal if you are actually notarizing, if the borrowers, whoever has come before you, has signed that document. And one of the things that I find so confusing, especially for the new notaries, is when they see the word seal after all the signature lines. It's so confusing. That comes from hundreds of years ago when people used to apply wax seals. That was their way of saying, I swear that this is the truth. And now, for some reason, these lenders for years have been putting the word seal after the end of the signature lines. And it's so confusing for new people. I get calls like that all the time. Mm-hmm. No, that's not where your seal goes.
Yeah, I've run across about that and questioned that also, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But the notarial certificate is the only place that you apply your seal.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Great question, Sherry. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, this is Guy again.
Oh.
And just a thought on this last conversation.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a notarial block, if it doesn't say signed and sworn, sworn and sealed, acknowledged, it may not be a notarizable document.
That is true.
It may look a lot like a document that could be notarized, but if the preparer of that document hasn't indicated what kind of notarization they want, then it may just be a document. And for whatever reason, the person who prepared that document thinks it would be nice to have a notary stamp on it.
Yes.
Well, there's certain components in it that are required in a notarial certificate. You have to have the venue. You have to have the date. You have to have the name of the signing parties. You have to have the, let's see what else, the usual verbiage of, where you are and everything. If those 5 or 6 components are not on there, gosh, I can't breathe. If they're not on there, you cannot notarize. It's not complete.
Can I just add that there are a few states, Michigan is one, there's a couple of others back there, that I will see a document that just says witness my hand and seal or attested and a place to sign and stamp. That's a notarial act. It's called signature witnessing. You shouldn't see it very often in a loan signing. Almost all of those are acknowledgments and jurats. But I just want everybody to know that this is why it's so important you understand how to read a notary certificate and how to understand what's being required of you. And it may be a notarial act, just not one in your state. And so when that happens, then you need to understand, well, what are they asking me to certify? And if I can't certify that because that's not in my state, then we need to have a phone call to find out what's going to be a good substitute for that.
Good thought.
Yeah, great thinking. And Aaron, thank you for asking the follow-up on the audiobook for Sign and Thrive. It's definitely not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So that's way delayed, and I'll get you guys an update as soon as I can. We've got 2 more questions I'd love to get to. Adrian, would you like to unmute and ask your question? Adrian Levert?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Sure can. Hi.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Good.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank you, Bill, because you're, I'm still finishing up your program, and it's excellent. Your videos, you're very thorough. I have my first signings, which I'm so happy. It's just a loan modification on Thursday. And my question was on one of the pages, the acknowledgement. It has for me to sign and to put my seal and everything. But I noticed at the top it says before me. There is no space there for me to put my name there. So I know I'm to sign and print at the bottom, but up at the top where it says before me, am I to put my name there, or just what I'm signing at the bottom just acknowledges that?
Great question. So Laura, do you want to take this one?
So I want to make sure again that I clearly heard all of that. I was responding to a text there. That when it does not, it says before me, but there's no place to put your name. For instance, in the jurat, there is not a place to put your name. It just says subscribed and sworn before me by the signer. And it might have the date, and California has an extra verbiage beyond that. And there's nowhere to put your name. In our acknowledgement, you're required to put your name. I've seen other acknowledgements for other states where there's not a place to put your name. So then you have to decide, does your state statutes allow for you to fill out an acknowledgement that does not have your name in it, if it's not your state wording?
Okay. Well, I'm in the state of Indiana. And
okay, so
like
I would have to, I could look that up for you, Adrienne, if you want to reach out to me via email. My last name, Biewer, Biewer, at sbcglobal.net. I'm happy to look up Indiana requirements for the acknowledgement. I can tell you in the jurat there's no place for your name, but in the acknowledgement, I would need to check your statute to see if that's a requirement. Your statute requirement may be substantially the same, not mandated language like it is for me. And in that case, you may be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question, Adrienne. Thank you. Lisa, we've got time for one more question. You want to unmute and ask our question?
Well, it's not. Hello there, everyone. Hello there, Bill, Laura, and Carol, my BFFs in my head. Well, it's not so much of a question. So what I'm going to have to do is, because we ran out of time, I'll have to call next Tuesday and share the story. I shared the story with Carol. Carol, I'm talking about the missing documents.
Oh.
And I wanted to share this with everybody. So it's a little lengthy, Bill.
Do it now.
Okay, all right. I'll do it real brief. Okay, I had a signing back on February 12th. Signing the next day, took the documents to FedEx inside of a FedEx store, and the gentleman that worked at FedEx took my document, sealed it up, gave me my receipt, told me everything would be shipped out, before 5 o'clock, and that was good. So come the next day, which was Valentine's Day, I get a phone call from the title company stating that they received my envelope and it was empty, blank, no documents, nothing. I passed out. I was just, I was confused. I broke down. Fast forward, I end up calling FedEx to speak to the manager, and I asked her if there's something that she can do, check the video, something. Well, I end up having to file a claim with FedEx. And the title company was, they wasn't upset, but they wasn't quite happy. So as things moved along, when I shared with the title company that you know, I filed a claim. Here's the claim number. Here's the claims adjuster. I'm doing my best to figure out what happened to these documents. No one knew what happened. So the title company, they were so nice about it. They wanted me to make another trip the next day just to get the note and the deed signed. Let me back up. I also back up my documents signed and unsigned on the USB. So just in case happens, I can go back and look to see if I was in fault or, you know, something. Well, since I had the documents already backed up, the title company wanted me to just go ahead and print the note and deed and have that signed. I did it the next day, didn't charge anything. So they were happy about that. And they also wanted me to send them a copy of the signed documents that I saved on my USB, which I did that. Okay, fast forward. I get a phone call from the title company last Friday, and the assistant goes, Miss Lisa, we wanted to reach out to you because guess what we got today? I go, what? She goes, the documents showed up. So she said that FedEx spoke to the escrow officer, and he wouldn't give any information about what, when, how, and where. Now, they also had me on videotape as well, the store, because they pulled the videotape. I made them pull that tape. They saw me come inside the store. They saw the documents. They saw their worker put my documents in an envelope and sealed. Now, what happened after I left the store, I don't know. So the title company was so thankful and grateful, and they were like, Lisa, we so appreciate your professionalism, what you did. You went above and beyond, you know, starting this claim, and you were, you know, you kept in contact with us and FedEx, and we would like to extend services to you. We want you to do all of our signings in Arizona.
What? Wow.
That was a blessing, but yes, but you know, it's really important. I listened to, Carol had did a video, I can't remember when, it was a TNT months ago, and Carol talked about saving your receipt and documenting that receipt in your notary journal. I do that, and I also keep my receipt. Thank God I kept that receipt, because that receipt is what saved me. That receipt showed that I did nothing to those documents. I did my job. I did my part. Happened with FedEx, I don't know, but I just want everybody out there, back your stuff up, do above and beyond, because this is not your job. This is our business, and when it's all said and done, we are hold, you know, responsible for a lot of things. Back your stuff up, you know. So yeah, so I got a title company for life because they're very appreciative of how I handle it, but.
I love it. Are you still there? Oh, I think she got cut off, but that's
got lost like your documents.
Right? It's got some energy around here. Lisa, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I love the idea of backing up the documents, of course, but I would like more than anything of that, though, is that you came out the other end of this potential crisis smelling like a rose because of the way you handled this. And if you have the attitude of drop everything and fix it and have the right attitude, you can handle anything in this business. Guys, thank you so much for showing up, growing yourself and your business on the Tuesday. Carol, as usual, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. And I know Laura's already gone, but thank you, Laura, as well. Guys, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.